Hello, Kiara Koto, 大家好. Welcome to NZCTA Young Associates event, Zoom into China, Intergenerational Chances in China. I'm your MC tonight, Judy. Thank you for attending and tuning in from wherever you may be. A few notes on Zoom etiquette before we get started. Please make sure you mute it at all times, unless it's appropriate to unmute during our question and answer session. If you have a question for the speaker, please send it to Shu, who's your question master tonight, privately via the Zoom chat. We encourage you to keep your video on, but no pressure if you would like to turn it off. Finally, please turn on your speaker view. Our guest today will speak for roughly about half an hour, followed by 15 minutes of audience questions. We will conclude our event at around 6:45. If you do miss anything, a recording of the session will be made available on YouTube over the next few days, so stay tuned. China's first digital natives are coming of age, with the split between generations becoming increasingly evident, especially through the use of social media. Join us to find out how Generation Z, millennials, baby boomers have been differently impacted through technology, brand consumption, and more. Our incredible speaker, Eric Yu, will share brilliant insights into intergenerational changes and chances in China. Eric is recognized as a leading expert in China's consumer and digital culture. Eric represents the new force of United Media Solutions with outstanding business acumen, a sharp business sense, and family enterprise management experience. Eric gains huge satisfaction from sharing stories and knowledge with clients. United Media Solutions helps foreign businesses to navigate China's complex digital landscape and connect with Chinese consumers through digital and social marketing communications. As a Chinese native, Eric moved to Australia in his teens and completed a Bachelor of Commerce with a double major in marketing and management from the University of Melbourne. His life experience and industry expertise give him a unique point of view, which he uses to help grow the business throughout innovation. Eric's exceptional business acumen and knowledge grew from working in his family business, which was involved in manufacturing, e-commerce, and international trade, specializing in fast-moving consumer goods. Here, he developed an understanding of how to run successful business operations and drive sales. He also brings experience in wholesale, real estate, and car sales. Eric knows almost as much about cars as he does about China digital technology. When he's not out for a joyride, he can be found in the gym relaxing after work. Let's welcome Eric.
Thanks, Judy, and thanks everyone for attending this session, and thanks NZCTA Young Association giving that great opportunities to speak about what I'm going to share today. As Judy mentioned, so China is a really fast-moving kind of the environment markets in the world, especially with the young generations and the different kind of the intergeneration changes that's been made over the years super quick, and especially after COVID-19, since 2019, everything just changes so rapidly in China markets. So today, hopefully I can give some of my own experience in the market, and also share some of the insights we have seen as a marketing agencies in the market, to share some of the knowledge for you, to helping you to guide onto how to best tap into China markets and stuff like that. So very quickly, as Judy had very kindly introduced, so I am the co-CEO of United Media Solutions, which is a digital marketing agencies. So we helping brands from all across the world lots of them from New Zealand, quite a few from Australia, and also including UK, Europe, and US markets as well, which across different industries. So we're helping them to understand about what is China market, and helping them to set up the strategy, and also helping them to implement the final steps they need to while they are talking to the clients and getting sales or leads or stuff like that. And meanwhile, I'm also running another family business, which is focusing on the manufacturing about home decoration stuffs in China as well. So that's like kind of a pretty diverse experience for myself, which gives me a pretty unique understanding about what has been happening in the market, and also what has been happening other part of the markets in the world. One of the slogans we have in UMS is change is constant. So what we are trying to do in our agency is to providing the on-time updates in the market, and give our clients the best views, which from there, like as we are doing like daily social monitoring stuff, and we do like white papers and stuff like that, which give me a pretty good understanding about what is being happening in the market. And hopefully I can analyze some of the key parts today, and share that with you all. So as said, we do actually service quite a lot of different industries or companies across the world, which from DBS, which is a diamond jewelry brand, which I will share one of the case studies we have done recently, which hopefully will give you some understanding about what kind of strategies or stuff you can undertake, and just like what those big brands, those big players are doing in the markets. And also we are helping quite a lot of the travel brands, government agencies across the world, most of them in New Zealand. Hopefully things will getting better very soon, and we can travel around the world again. And also we do have quite a lot of FMCG brands, which there's different kind of strategies they are undertake, and I will share with you later, is how they tag into different generations and different regions through different kinds of channels, which is actually pretty interesting, and hopefully you will like it. And also we also tag into some of the educations part of the clients as well. So again, pretty interesting stuff. Some of the key stuff I am gonna to cover in today's session. Firstly is what is the changes been happening in China. Second is gonna about who is the new buying powers, in China markets. Sorry, just quickly, can you guys see my screen? Is it moving or it's still?
It's not full screen yet.
Is it not on full screen?
No, I think we're on that sliding show initial page.
How about now? Better?
Yes, it has moved, but it's not full screen yet.
Is it better a little bit or not?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's fine. Yeah.
If it's fine,
better, yeah.
I'll just keep that. Yeah, because sometimes it doesn't work with Zoom. Why I just go full screen. But let me know any questions. Just leave it in the Q&A so we can discuss later. So just that we are going to discuss about what is changes being happening in China as the first point, and also who is the new buying powers. And also I will providing some of the practical examples about what kind of the strategies could be undertaken to target the rising buying powers in China, which is across actually 4 different target audience. Lastly, and also I'm going to share some of my own experience of the difference between young generations in China and Australia and New Zealand, and how the adoptions could be made, and also some of the insights we have seen with the Generation Z, their behaviors in China markets, which is actually pretty fascinating. Since COVID-19, things are changing pretty fast. As probably a few years ago, we might still having this session offline, but now we're having the virtually online, and we are so adopt to working from home. And China markets is one of the most fast-moving markets in the world. Even before COVID-19, we have so many different channels, so many different kind of the marketing play rules you cannot even imagine in other markets. So in China, it's still as that competitive than ever before. And also, of course, which also means it's full of opportunities. So they're dealing this year around the digital technologies and how that could be implemented to overcome challenges brought about after COVID-19. So that's kind of the things I would like to share with you. And also it's already second half of 22, but some of the insights we have seen from 2021 are still pretty trendy. And hopefully I can share some of the major developments in China market through 2021 and how brands could take advantage of those opportunities. So first of all, it will be great understanding how things are being changed. So understanding the shifting of the consumptions is pretty important. Some of those is already been happening in another part of the world as well, but things are still slightly different in China markets. I'm gonna go through this with 4 key topics. First one is convenience. Convenience is something we always talk about in China markets compared to the other markets in the world. Is the logistic is so convenient, and even while we buy stuffs on Tmall or Taobao or other e-commerce platforms, you often will getting a 7 days product return policy, which is super convenient, and you can just buy that, which will usually arrive in 2 to 3 days of time, and also you can still return that after that. So that kind of the convenience with time and the logistic benefits is something you cannot think about in another part of the world, which it also means challenges for brands is because that is too convenient. There are many consumers trying using that way as kind of like trial period of times, especially with some of the industries like clothings or stuff. Many people would just buy that and just pay a very, very small fee of shipping, sometimes like 3 to 4 RMB, which is equivalent to about 80 cents New Zealand dollars. And you can just try that for a few days and return that. Which means if your products are not good enough or you are not impressed in some way to your consumers, you are very easy to be replaced. So convenience means good. They can buy your products in instant time, but also give you the challenges of the replacement cost is so low. And also often you can see in those e-commerce is you will have the times, for example, here it says you will arrive in 45 minutes or 50 minutes while you just buy a Wagyu beef or stuff like that. And also in the platforms, the convenience also means big data as well. For example, myself trying to doing some exercise since a couple of months ago, which this is one of the screenshots I've just been made recently, is it gives me talking about the tennis sports a Siri book, and also give me Under Armour like clothing suggestions and stuff like that. So that kind of the based on AI and data, which give a more easier options for the consumers. So understand your consumers is really important in China. Secondly, is we're talking about convenience. It also means people can get value deals pretty easily as well. For example, I search for black moss, vitamin C in Tmall. I think that, yeah, that's Tmall Taobao. And you will see there are several options come up straight away. Exactly the same products, but the price varies from 116 to 189. Which it covers from those official Tmall overseas stores to Black Moss, their own flagship stores. And also when you get into there, you have different kind of memberships options as well. So that kind of the things is when branders or the marketers are trying to be success in China market is have to think about, because there are too many options. And what I have shown here is only in Tmall, but think about in Pinduoduo, JD, other offline markets or stuff like that, people can always get better deals. So what is the solutions you can provide into them to make them your loyal program, your loyal customers, whether it's you have providing good price or good service, or you give them something back to make them feel like they're spending the money for good values. So that is one of the key trend things you have to be aware in China markets as well. Next, about safe shopping experience, no touch experience, which I guess is basically everywhere similar about that. But China just doing a little bit more advanced into that. So the imagery showing here is what we call delivery storage box, which we have lots of those in our ground floor in our office building, which the delivery guys, they have that and put it into that box, and you can just having that when you have time, if you are in a meeting or something, which gives more convenience and also make sure it's no touch experience while buying stuff. And that is just delivery, that is just like food deliveries. And we also have like other kind of the storage box for your parcels as well. So lots of stuff you can think about in China. And also even in the delivery tracking maps, you can even see the delivery guys with the temperatures, body temperatures they are in at the moment, whether they have the COVID test done in last 24, 48 hours. So that kind of the things is actually pretty fascinating and gives a lot of convenience and transparency on what has been happening. Again, we're gonna talking about options. On the right here is just a glimpse of the options of you can buy stuff online. I'm not sure how many of those you have seen before, but I guess Taobao, Pinduoduo, JD, and Cola maybe, Little Box might look familiar. But that is just some of the stuff you will see in the markets. You can buy stuff. Mentioned earlier, different person are gonna having different promotions. Like for example, Pinduoduo is giving like billions of dollars giveaway to make the consumers can get a cheaper price, and others are like giving 618, Double 11, or consular festivals to the consumers. So that's just too many options in the market. So how to standing out from that much of the competitive markets is one of the key things definitely need to think about. So that is the trends on the buying behaviors on consumptions. Nextly, I would like to share a little bit about 3 of the new buying powers we have in the market. So Generation Z, which I think we are all pretty familiar. Silver generation is one of the things we recently are talking about, especially when we're talking about aged care or those healthcare things. So silver generation is booming when we talk about health and stuff. But here I'm going to talk a little bit more on how they become, how themselves becoming the new buying power rather than their trials or stuff have to pay them for healthcare fees. And also last one is what we call 小镇青年, which means those young generations coming from tier 3 or tier 4 cities, which are becoming a new buying power in the markets as well. So Generation Z, mostly we are talking about Generation Z is focusing on tier 1 or tier 2 cities, which also they cause a pretty big average income drop in China and also in around the world. But the results in consumptions are still going up because of the unique characters of Generation Z. They are being very loyal. And their consumption behaviors are usually driven by community influences, promotion, their intensities, and loyal programs. So targeting them at the very beginning times usually means they will become your long-term customers. And how to targeting them, which I will cover later a little bit, is you have to know about what is the key characters Generation Zs are in. So secondly, 小镇青年, which we also call them small town youngsters, usually 20 to 30 years old, who had good educations, means they have been to universities, probably in those big tier 1 or tier 2 cities, but they still live in tier 3 or 4 or lower cities, which could be happening while after having good educations outside of his or her hometown, and they coming back, or they just staying there for a long time. Usually in that kind of cities, it means lower housing cost. So the cost to buy or rent a house is usually cheaper, lots cheaper compared to tier 1 or tier 2. And also it means better opportunities or emerging digital and lifestyle economy in those cities as well. So some of the figures here, 52.6% of the annual spending growth in last 3 years with small town youngsters. And usually they will come and have like a mentality of I see that, I want it. So these groups look to purchase products that they are in line with their values and express their personalities. So this is like one of the key group of peoples which they do actually have money. Money could be from themselves or could be money from their parents or from their families. But because of the lower housing cost or lower living cost in those tier 3 or tier 4 cities, and plus their personalities of they buy whatever they want, and also because they have good educations, they know what's been happening outside of China or what has been happening in those tier 1, tier 2 cities. So they usually are willing to pay a little bit more and also to buy something foreign as well, which cost these 52% of the annual spending as being gross in last 3 years. And I think I've seen a stats recently is the spending power on tier 3 and tier 4 cities in general is increasing a lot again from 21 to 22. So this group of people is definitely something you would like to think about, as that's a less market is actually doing stuff to targeting them. If you can get them, it's kind of like the strategy of from village to cities kind of the strategy, which could be very interesting and not necessarily spending quite a lot in the markets at the beginning as well. Lastly, the silver generations. So we define silver generations as those senior citizens aged over 60%, which now is about 70.4% of total populations in China. Something very interesting stats is, and also some interesting images below is you will see those grandpas, they are starting learning to using laptops, and they all having their own smartphones, which according to Alibaba, the average spending of silver generation on food and beverage products is 3.6% higher than other online users. It's not just like compared to anyone else, it's higher than the average spending, which is actually pretty amazing. And the travel spending is 3 times higher than millennials. They have the time, they have the money, they are willing to make new friends, and they have smartphones. So which all combined together makes them one of the most strong buying powers in the market. The delivery app Meituan, I'm not sure, have you heard about basically Uber Eats in China? Says the silver generation makes up 36% of the users in 2020. I unfortunately haven't got the stats on 21 or 22, but I can imagine that's still like a very high percentage of them is the silver generation has made up in the new users. So without too much saying on that, it's pretty obvious silver generation is one of the key markets. You can get repeat sales happening, especially if they are interested with the products. But also one of the things you need to aware about is there's quite a lot of the scandals around silver generations in China. Is people are trying to get them to kind of like robbery monies from them. So you need to be super aware about the language or the promotional materials you're using with silver generation. So yeah, that's about that. So after talking about these new buying powers and the trends in the market, one of the key things we are study or we are trying to helping with our brands customer is how to win over loyal customers through effective marketings. There's more than 800 million of internet users in China. And China has a record numbers of apps which each boast more than 100 million monthly active users, which is a huge numbers. But in that, how you can win over loyal customers through effective marketing is one of the things you need to think about, especially during that effective marketing is how you could reach out to the right target audience you want to talk to. The app we will recommend today is still Wechat. Although you might think about Wechat, it's just like a pretty standard social content or chatting tools, but actually Wechat is so much more beyond just like a chatting apps. In Wechat, I think I have a stats before is people spending about on average people spending about 90 minutes on Wechat every day for every netizens in China. So like for myself, I'm spending, I don't know, maybe more than 5 hours on Wechat every day, or even more. I do my work communications on Wechat. I buy stuff on Wechat. I check what my friends is doing on Wechat. And Wechat have all my stats on where I am, what I buy, how much money I had in Wechat wallets, and who I talk to, what's my age group, and all kinds of this information. Wechat are all having that. What kind of articles I'm reading. So think about that as Wechat can having all that much of the big data at the back, which if you can using that, which actually you can, how you can segment your customers into different group of peoples, and how you can specifically targeting them is one of the super helpful things while you want to having them as your loyal customers. And also because Wechat have that much of the data, the advertising functions Wechat are providing based on LBS or your personal behaviors is super helping as well. It's not 100% accurate, but using that as a premises of attracting people into your funnel, and you drive them or transform them as your loyal customers is something you can done pretty easily within Wechat. But that is actually a pretty comprehensive or pretty complex methodologies on how Wechat could become that much powerful CRM systems. If you're interested, we can talk about that offline as well. Also, I said WeChat is 100% of the key platforms we will recommend to targeting in the market. But if you want to targeting different group of people, silver generations, 小镇青年, and Gen Z, you also have to think about omni-channel strategies. You have to think about always on digital and social advertising. You have to conduct joint venture campaigns to increase audience reach if you can. Best use of KOCs, key opinion consumers, KOLs, key opinion leaders and celebrities, and also think about digital billboards. That is something you can more easily to find the right target audience you have. So some of the insights we had after doing that much of the campaigns or advertising in the market is consumers are increasingly interacting with only the most rich and cutting-edge forms of content. Long-form articles and videos are no longer making the cut. So stop making those super long informative articles. And those super long videos could be maybe pretty attractive, but try to make it shorter. And the users are turning their attentions to the contents which fulfills their entertainment needs. And that is why Douyin and TikTok are being so popular over the years. That is not only in China, but also the trends across the world as well. So bigger social media platforms such as Douyin and Red have begun to better support live streamings, which increase functionality such as payment, product listing, and group purchase as well. So keep your eyes around, see if any new trends came in and try to be the first one to try that. At the beginning, the cost may not be that higher, but if you can make it, and if you are the first couple of the people to try these platforms, which usually means you will get more success in the market as well. So next, I'm gonna to share one of the recent case studies we have done with DBS Group, which actually combines lots of the stuff I just mentioning previously. Is that campaign, I think it's being undertaken by the end of last year, about the Chinese Valentine's Day last year, which is about a year ago. So in that campaign, what we are trying to telling the consumers is buy natural diamonds. And why you need to buy natural diamonds is because it reminds you the unique moments, and that unique diamonds is only for you. So we are mainly targeting the young consumers and lower tier cities as target audience in this campaign. And we also want to build up the DBS Group as a diamond expert brand images to the market as well. So here is one of the methodologies we have been undertaken in that campaign. Yes, we have split the media channels into several different categories. Firstly, on media, yes, we have our own WeChat official accounts. In paid medias, we're using WeChat and Weibo KOLs. And in there, you will see we're using couple lifestyle KOLs, love mentor, or fashion KOLs in those paid medias. And also feed ads, which including WeChat banner ads and moment ads, which massively traffics within WeChat. And also, lastly, another paid media, which is different to KOLs, is we are using WeChat professional medias, which is those diamond experts who sharing their daily knowledge about buying or sharing the knowledge about diamonds. So we split those channels into specific parts, which different platforms or different channels, different media channels having their own purpose. In our medias, we are just using that as our official channels to speak out. In paid medias, as you will see, we use different tiers or different kinds of the KOLs, which is to targeting different kinds of the peoples. Some are higher spendings, some are more lifestyle orientated, some are the couples just getting married, which have lots of like followers, kind of like admire about their love relationships, stuff like that. So that's all people are all the end consumers we want to target about. So try to be specific on those KOLs. And also we're only using WeChat and Weibo here because of the budget limitations. Think about using Red, Little Red Books, or Douyin, or other platforms, which will give you some pretty surprising results as well. And also even think about Zhihu, some other knowledge platforms as well. So feed ads, so as said, we're using that with LBS and some personality tags to target the audience, which tier 2, tier 3 younger generations. And also in paid medias, we're using that channels to like basically build up the momentums by discussing the campaign within social media, and also give like a kind of like a backup of the information to support DBS as a diamond experts in the market. So overall, it's very amazing results. We achieved about 600% of impressions, 268 clicks, and I don't know what's it here, but I think it's about 200% of the engagements as well, and about 130 new followers. And some of the key things here, pretty interesting, is because it's during Chinese Valentine's Day, so pick the right timing is pretty important, as people are discussing about diamonds and love and stuff during that times. And we have a very high engagements in tier 3 to 4 cities compared to tier 1 and 2. And that stats is coming from KOLs and from our feed ads. So, and also most reads are coming from Gen Z targeted groups. So all of those is kind of like match back to our initial thinkings, and also kind of like proves we are actually using the right strategies, which is pretty good. So, so what I want to say here is omni-channels and pick the right platforms, and think clearly on who is the new buying powers or who is the target audience you are thinking about. Undertake the right strategy. Usually it will give you pretty positive feedbacks. So that's about that. And lastly, I would like to share a little bit about is Generation Zs. Generation Zs in China and also in across the world is all a pretty interesting group of people actually. So for my own experience, I study in Melbourne from high school to uni lives. Once I moved back to China, is a little bit not that easy for me to adopt at the very beginning, as I find that's being pretty different to what I am aware about the younger generation behaviors in China. Firstly, Generation Z in China nowadays, all having pretty strong self-identity. They know what they love, they know what they don't like, and they have a very, very strong preference on that. Like some of them love niche cultures. They will just wearing whatever the clothing they like onto streets, which is never going to happen before. And they will just say no to what they dislike. No matter on buying stuffs or in office, they will just say no to their boss on whatever the stuff they don't like, which is something you will never see with the older generations. And because of the new trends are happening so quickly, there's a pretty quick shift between different cultures and trends, which if you check Weibo, the hot topic list, you will see that's like moving so quickly. In the morning, the top 10 things could be totally different to the top 10 things in the afternoon, which is similar to Generation Z's preference as well. They could like hip hop yesterday, and they could like classic musics today, and they are so willing to pay for what they like. They buy memberships, which buying like music memberships or pay for the IP stuff is something never gonna happen in China before, but now those young generations are willing to pay for IP, and they are willing to pay for what they like. And those kind of the idol culture in China is also pretty fascinating as well. Is a generation fans, or they can just spending thousands of tens thousands or even more money, so you can imagine, to support their idols. So that kind of the things is you need to aware about, not necessarily something you can undertake within your marketing strategy, but it's good to know. And if you have the budget to work with a celebrity as an idol, sometimes works very well as well. And also, as I said myself, I'm spending about 5 hours every day on Wechat, which some others of my friends are even more crazy than me. They basically spending all their times online or on virtual worlds. And they are so willing to share on social media. And that is why little Roblox are so popular at the moment. Is you can see all kinds of the sharings from cars to beauties to cosmetics to clothing to weddings to food. Anything you can imagine, you will find someone sharing on there. So that kind of the sharing culture is actually very good for marketers as well. Is they will just be your advocates straight away, as long as they like your brands. And also Generation Z, it's actually not just Generation Z, but in general in China, is we having lots of channel to acquire informations. Like myself, I search top trends through Weibo. I check some official information through Baidu, and I check some other gossips through WeChat. So different channels have different ways of using. So find the right ways to find the new topics is super important as well. And as I mentioned at the beginning, is Generation Z can spending money, and they're very willing to spend money to please themselves, rather than like buying gifts for friends or those your boss, but they are more willing to save the money for themselves and buy that for themselves. And their kind of the way of living is try to make as much of money as they can, if not, but still spending as much as they can. So that's like pretty interesting thing. Some of those is actually a little bit being similar to the generation culture, young generation cultures in New Zealand and Australia as well now. But that kind of the new trends and merged with the old kind of the culture things with the generation things in China makes them a pretty unique sort of groups to target about, and understand them and study them. And if you can understand who they are and understand why they're buying, then you can be a very good marketers to promote it to them. So yes, that is actually basically everything I would like to share today. And I will just hand it back to Judy.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for your presentation. It was very insightful. I particularly like your observation saying consumers are interacting with only the most rich and cutting edge forms of content. I feel like it's very interesting to see that, because we are in such an information overload era. And I think about myself, it's true that I'm losing interest over reading long articles or watching really long videos. So your observation is actually a really useful tip for everyone who's thinking about communicating with others, proposing marketing activities, or trying to convey ideas. So thank you, Eric. This brings us to our question and answer segment. I'll now pass over to Shu, who's our question master for this session.
Yep, thank you, Eric, and thanks for everybody who sent me the questions. So I'm going to ask and share a few questions that our audience asked. So I'm going to ask the first question, which is related to what Judy just said. So Some people have argued that short videos like on Douyin are so addictive because you don't need to spend like much time or concentration to view them. So do you think this is true? If yes, do you think the long form content will ever make a comeback?
Well, yeah, 100%. I think it's true. Short videos is very addictive. Well, I sometimes trying to research some of the stuff on TikTok, and I will just somehow spending half hour and an hour on that, just reading some irrelevant stuff. It's just, it basically reads my mind and knows what I want to check. So I will 100% agree that short video will still be one of the key things in the market, but it does not mean long form videos has no rooms for that. Very simple examples of short videos is for you to quickly getting the knowledge you want, which you don't have to read a pretty long articles or something to understand about that, but through that very interactive or very informative videos, you can get the information you get. It's easy. But in long form, the videos, just like movies, you're still very into to watch a movie, rather than like just watching some small clips of the movies. So the rooms for those long format videos is you have to be very, very unique, very good cutting or editing techniques, and you can have to find a very specific angles on the message you want to deliver. In that, long videos will still be there. Otherwise, personally, I don't think it will be a good choice for most of the marketers to choose about. Especially, it's much more expensive as well.
Yeah, totally makes sense. It sounds like the short videos is still the trend now, eh? Okay, so the second question, so you mentioned some segmentation of the new rising buying powers in China. So what do you reckon this market segmentation is required to be so that it's most effective? For example, like the segmentation between cities and provinces might be different, and how different is it?
Yeah, myself, I highly recommend to having that segments. In our CRM system for some of the clients at the backend, yes, we have very, very specific tags for different cities, for different buying powers. And we recording every steps they have been undertaken within the social medias, which that tells us who they are. Not necessarily only targeting on cities, but what we are suggesting is each IP or each users, you have to give them their own personalities. And for example, one of the things we've done with NZTE is we are supporting them with one of the program called Taste New Zealand, is to promoting the food and beverage and some other stuff from New Zealand to China markets. So they buy stuff and they buy stuff from supermarkets or some other places, but we can recording their buying behaviors. So for example, I say customer A buy cherry last year, and this year we want to promoting apples from New Zealand, and we can just getting the data from backend saying that is the cities they can buy that apple, and that is the people who bought cherry last year. So they might be into those fresh fruits, and we can just specifically push that content to them. And that is one of the new segments we are having. And they will be very accurate customers you can talk to in the future, and they will be very easily become your loyal customer because you know what they want.
Yeah, that's right. You always need some like segments to target different needs. Cool.
Yeah.
So another question is about climate change. So programs like Amazon Prime have caused people to rethink about the large environmental impact of same-day delivery. So do you think with like the climate change disrupting things like energy production in China, do you still think the same-day delivery is sustainable?
I think that is something you can't avoid, to be honest. Is people are getting used with same-day deliveries or second-day deliveries. If one day you tell them you won't get that anymore, people are just gonna be crazy on that. But some of the positive things we have seen in the market is there are much more electricity bikes or those cars on the streets in China already, much more than New Zealand, Australia, from what I've seen. And from packaging itself, we're trying to be recycled. And in Ele.me, which is the food delivery app, you can choose whether you want have your cutleries or not. And you will be rewarded if you choose not to having cutleries for your food delivery. So I would say things are getting positive, but convenient sometimes means is kind of like a wasting in some ways. So overall, I think it's going to be a way to be in the middle to make sure everything works okay in long terms.
Yeah, fair enough. So one of the other question is, what values do Chinese customers care about the most in their purchasing? For example, you can give a few examples of some innovative or successful loyalty programs, perhaps.
That's actually based on age, pretty specifically. As I said about Generation Z, they buy the stuff they like. They like the brands they like, and they would just constantly become the loyal customers for that the brands match their values. But it does not mean like loyal programs or those good pricing does not fit for them as well. So most of the time, what we are being undertake with our clients is loyal programs, just giving points to them, and they can redeem the points into merchandise related to the brands. It basically works pretty similar to all other brands I have seen in the market. Is you having the points and you have either money back, or you get free samples, or you get merchandise. So that is, I would say, pretty common things you will see. But I remember I checked Jerry's presentation, which is the last series of this session. Is he gave a pretty explanations about the difference between different generations and stuff like that. I think he is done pretty good jobs on that, which tells about the key stuffs people taking the most about well in different generations or into different cities of the people. So probably check his videos as well, and we'll give good understandings about what kind of the loyal programs you should undertake.
Yeah, we do have recordings from the last event, so please check out if you're interested. Okay, I think so. Because of time, I'll ask like last two questions. So you mentioned something about like the safe shopping options, like non-contact delivery. Especially being China still like have lots of COVID restrictions, some cities in lockdown. So do you think that change, do you have some experience using the safe shopping options yourself? And do you think that changed the way people purchase items as a result of that?
Unfortunately, COVID is still happening, and it is still lots of restrictions in China, but I don't think it restrict their purchasing behaviors. It's just changing their purchasing behaviors, probably from offline to online. As you will see, one of the stats in 2021, 2020, I can't remember, is the overall purchasing is not going down, but going up in China compared to 2019. Especially some of the high-end luxury stuffs is going up by quite a low percentage. So I don't think it actually changed people to buy stuff. It's only changing the way of how they buy stuff. And something not very positive information is also restrictions are still happening in China, but I don't think people really care about it too much at the moment in China. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine. Like everybody's just like so sick of COVID already. Okay, so last one, it's not something relevant for today, but someone asked, like, since you have a lot of like car experience, car sales experience, so what kind of cars are you into?
Well, lots of them, sports cars, especially. I'm pretty lucky to have 2 supercars in my collection. So try to add me on Instagram, maybe. As I got some pretty fancy images there.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Someone just asked you to reshare the WeChat QR code if you can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay, I think that's pretty much for the Q&A session. Thank you so much, Eric. I'll hand it back to Judy.
Here we go. We have Eric's just your WeChat. So everyone can take this chance to take a photo or scan. Right. Thank you for those thoughtful questions and answers, and thank Eric to take time out of your day and attend this event. I'm sure we each had great takeaways from your presentations. For the audience, if you want to be in the loop and be the first to know of our next events, follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, WeChat, and sign up for Patreon for less than $4 a month. Thank you all for coming today. Keep an eye out for the future events we have lined up for 2022. And have a good evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.